And joining us on Newsnight for more perspective on the issue is Sam Amadi, Associate Professor of Law and Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, as well as a RISE analyst. Sam, nice to see you again on Newsnight.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
good.
Thank you. It's been a raging issue. Should the Americans really come and help us wipe out, the terrorists who have, really vowed the cleansing system like ISWAP. They've never hidden their own, dastardly acts against the Christians in Nigeria and the rest. But now some friends of Nigeria, Russia, China say, we're not going to stay idly by, for a sovereign country to be invaded and the rest. What are your thoughts when you look at the international perspectives or dimensions to this? What really should Nigeria be doing and the rest?
First is to understand what are these countries doing. So I think what they're doing basically is also playing their own politics, which is to say, look, we can't allow Nigeria to go ahead to, to damage the prospect of, a sovereign country. Again, let's not forget that Russia has the same problem like Nigeria. Issues, allegations, China feels bad about the way it's classified like Nigeria. So in a one sense, in a breath, it's political strategy. They are also trying to say, Nigeria, don't go there. The idea of Nigeria interfering, quote unquote.
No, America, don't go there.
Sorry,
rather.
America interfering in Nigeria's, domestic policy. Is something that China has always taken a position against. It's a strategic foreign policy is to say, allow countries do what they want to do. That's the Chinese, almost many decades policy stand. Russia too has been an outlaw. Don't forget that the president of Russia is facing a ICC, arrest warrant. So they are going to rebuff an idea of another country dictating how they manage domestic affairs. But in real sense, I think Nigeria has perhaps done well in not escalating from the government part of it. President Tinubu has been silent. Maybe, let's assume, studying the situation, maybe engaging diplomatically. All this flare up. People are saying, oh, China is coming. China is not going to come. China would like to be Nigeria's good book, or rhetorically, so that after the storm, they continue with their mining business, with all their business deals. China is not going to hit America or stand in America's way in any confrontational way. Because even when it comes to Taiwan, which is critical to China, when America raised the rhetoric and tried to engage them on that, they don't pull the trigger. China understands clearly that economically they're competitive, but militarily they are not. Russia is not even going to, Russia is pleading America not to release the Tomahawks for Ukraine. They're not going to do anything. But I think what this moment calls for is clarity. One, it's clear. I think the political rhetoric is dangerous. America never said they're going to invade Nigeria and probably should not. America, I think, reckons Nigeria as still a very good business and diplomatic partner. America needs Nigeria, Nigeria needs America. But what I think America is concerned is about the terrorists. So Nigeria's position would be something like, as long as we work together, you help us, because Nigeria also says that the terrorists is a prime security challenge to Nigeria. So both parties agree on what is not clear is this genocide, is not genocide. Let's leave that with one bucket. But what is clear, as we
is how to wipe out the terrorists.
And the guy says, the terrorist says, we are killing Christians. So this is not the Nigerian government. This is not Nigerian Muslims, so to say. This is Islamic terrorists claiming openly that they have a commitment to kill Christians. So the Nigerian government should never say, oh, that's not true. So the question of genocide is a genocide committed by who? Committed by terrorists. So often the people assume that, when we say there's a genocide, it means that, it must be the Nigerian government. For example, Nigerian citizens can be victims of genocidal attack by external persons. So assuming a country or an ethnic group outside Nigeria intends to kill a Nigerian ethnic group, will you say it's not genocide? It's not the Nigerian government that's genocidal. It is the terror, the Islamic terrorists who, by their own admission. So I think Nigeria's game is to say, we want to protect first territorial integrity. We don't want to be invaded even if they're going to help us fight terrorists, it will be with some kind of understanding and respect as a sovereign country. So the U.S. defense could work with Nigerian defense, get some protocols, collaboration, and deal with the terrorists. Again, at the level of public diplomacy, I think there has been some damaging statements made by aides and mercenaries here and there and proxies that don't flow from knowledge about international politics. Again, if you look at the human rights instrument, I think there's a provision for what they call the right to protect, which allows all member nations to take action. Yeah. The question is there a egregious violation of international human rights that requires that intervention? Nigeria has actually been part of doing that. I mean, when we talk about ECOWAS trying to go into
Liberia and Sierra Leone and the rest.
They're not also called us. We say there's something that we have obligation to deal with. So to save mankind. So the question is, first, what's happening in Nigeria? Now, the Nigerian government has admitted that the level of terror killing, whether it's genocidal or otherwise, has come to a proportion that's alarming. And
that cannot be allowed to continue.
And secondly, that we have failed in the past years to really be effective.
And the failure is being seen as complicit, being complicit.
In fact, failure in mass violence by a state authority is complicity. If I was sitting in the ICC, I would bring a case that a government, a state with military, a state with defense capability, cannot protect a community from repeated attack. That suggests two things. Two, either they don't have the capacity, which is doubtful. Two, or they connive with those invaders. So Nigeria cannot really, in reality.
It's obvious, but I think from the commentary, in the public sphere, it is obvious that there is connivance. We've heard from officials of, governments serving in the past, just 2 years back, who pinpointed the reasons for the invasion of these terrorists of Nigeria. I mean, they are hired by foreigners to come and do our mining here. Those who even want to intervene for us, you understand, in Zamfara, all the gold belt from Elisha down to Zamfara, Niger and the
even
rest.
The governor, I mean, it's very funny the way Nigeria
The governor of Zamfara state he said so on Arise News.
So if a governor of a state says, I know where this terrorist is,
so why is the Nigerian government denying their presence or what?
It's political rhetoric. If this matter goes to
politics with the life of the people.
The point is, any reasonable person will tell that Nigerian government is complicit, whether willingly or involuntarily. If you're a state authority and there's a terror group wreaking havoc on your citizens, and you can't go after them, and you have a list of their financiers. By the way, since under Buhari, we got from Dubai, UAE, United Arab Emirates, the list of sponsors. They have not taken on these sponsors. They have not trusted. Pastor Deboye was said it treated Buhari to move on, and Buhari fought back. So this is the point. The terrorism in Nigeria has a religious and ethnic coloration, in the sense that the religious component disables effective action. And that's why in the literature of social science, we say that Nigeria is what they call weak states. Now, weak states are not just states that don't have the arms. Weak states are weakened by the inability of the state to retrieve itself from contending social forces. So, social interests, a state is captured by one of the contending interests, be it religious, social, or ethnic. That state is weak. So, if you really want to go against bandits, and they are Christians, and you are a state that Christians have captured, then you foot drag in going after Christian bandits. If you are a state that have been captured by animists, for example, and the criminal gang you have to deal with are animists, then that state is weak because there's sympathy. And by the way, that's when Jonathan was in power. Some of the high-ranking officials says, we sit in meetings with Boko Haram sympathizers. I mean, that is alarm. A whole Danjuma, who is as fully paid up as anybody institutionally in this country, former this and that, former defense minister, told you that you shouldn't rely on the Nigerian army, that your own army is compromised. So I think that the reality is that President Tinubu has a great job to do now, to sort out this, the difficulties that is towards an election where he seems to be more politically mobilized. Otherwise, this calls for real think, recreating the military.
One quick correction I want to make is that the Nigerian army or the Nigerian military is not compromised. They only wait for orders.
So, it's not as if they don't know. They know what to do.
It's not as if they don't know what to do. Times without number, Tajir, the kingpin of the terrorists, has been pinpointed severally.
You're absolutely correct.
And you'll be and
Nigeria is one of the strongest military in Africa. So the question then is, why not letting them get the job done?
Is the political
so I think Nigeria should now hunker back from this Trump thing and ask real questions and say, what can we do to improve this fight? How can we get the Americans to help us? How can we strengthen our own military? But the key point, you're right, is that the commander-in-chief, look at the way the American military has changed because of the commander-in-chief. They renamed it Department of War. This is a first-class war country. But they recognize that even as a country, the political crisis hobbled their military capability. So if Nigeria's military is not delivering, it's not because they can't. It's that the political crisis leadership has not allowed them to put out their lethality. This is a lethal army that can get the job done, but the political team is not on the same page.
In 24 hours, the Nigerian army
can get this job done.
They can get it done.
I agree with you.